You walk into the meeting 2 minutes late. The room is calm, but not neutral. One person speaks slowly, almost softly, and every head nods before the numbers even appear. He does not rush. He names the problem, sketches a path, and pauses long enough for silence to agree. You are ready to argue the facts, yet the facts now sit inside his voice. His language gives the graph its mood. His posture makes risk look reasonable, and your caution look like fear. By the time you speak, the decision already has a direction. He did not win the data. He won the story that tells the data what it means. At home, the pattern repeats. A relative tells the family what really happened in a fight you were in. The tale is tidy, your motives small, their patience great. No one checks messages or timelines. The version that feels easiest is crowned as truth. In the city outside, a candidate smiles into a camera and names a crisis with a line simple enough for the evening news. Facts exist, but they arrive late, dressed in footnotes. The first clear sentence wins. This is the theater of power. The stage is not a palace. It is the hallway, the group chat, the boardroom, the quiet dinner after the storm. The calm storyteller selects the light, arranges the chairs, and hands everyone apart. People do not notice the arrangement. They feel relief that the scene finally has order. Optics precede truth, because the human heart seeks peace before accuracy. A steady tone, a clean frame, a phrase repeated without apology, these soothe the crowd and guide the vote. You were taught that being right would be enough. It is not. The world does not grant victory to the most moral or the most skilled. It bows to the most disciplined narrator. If you do not seize the opening line, you will spend the rest of the act playing defense inside someone else's plot. You will explain, and explain, and explain, while the audience leans toward the person who never raises his voice. Machiavelli's lesson is not romance, it is realism. People are busy, tired, and distracted. They judge by appearances because looking deeper costs energy most will not pay. A confident entrance reads as competence, a tight message reads as truth, a stable demeanor reads as safety. The myth says the facts will speak for themselves. They never do. Facts are bricks. Appearances are architecture. Without a builder, bricks become rubble, so you learn to build. Begin with the frame, the invisible wall that keeps confusion out and loyalty in. A frame is not a slogan, it is a boundary of meaning. It says what the situation is and what it is not. It decides which questions matter and which will be ignored. When you declare, here is the issue, here is what we will measure, here is the next step, you pour the foundation. When you keep the message short and repeat it without apology, you raise the walls. When you keep your body still, your voice low, and your pauses deliberate, you fix the roof. Now, critics must knock to get inside. Now, data serves the house you built. Your enemies will try to drag you into the open field of accusations, trivia, and emotion. Do not chase them. Restate the scene at a higher level and force them to argue inside your definitions. Reward allies who use your language. Withhold attention from stories that dilute your position. If numbers help, use them, but only after the frame is secure. Numbers are arrows, the frame is the bow. This is not cruelty, it is my responsibility. Leadership is deciding the meaning of the moment, so action becomes possible. You can be fair after you are clear. You can be generous after the ground stops moving. Control the narrative, and you control the temperature of the room, the pace of the meeting, the direction of the week. Lose it, and you will live inside other people's weather. Set the frame, then speak. Men in general judge more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see but few can feel. You walk into the meeting 2 minutes late. The room is calm, but not neutral. One person speaks slowly, almost softly, and every head nods before the numbers even appear. He does not rush. He names the problem, sketches a path, and pauses long enough for silence to agree. You are ready to argue the facts. Yet the facts now sit inside his voice. His language gives the graph its mood. His posture makes risk look reasonable, and your caution look like fear. By the time you speak, the decision already has a direction. He did not win the data. He won the story that tells the data what it means. At home, the pattern repeats. A relative tells the family what really happened in a fight you were in. The tale is tidy, your motive small, their patience great. No one checks messages or timelines. The version that feels easiest is crowned as truth. In the city outside, a candidate smiles into a camera and names a crisis with a line simple enough for the evening news. Facts exist, but they arrive late, dressed in footnotes. The first clear sentence wins. This is the theater of power. The stage is not a palace. It is the hallway, the group chat, the boardroom, the quiet dinner after the storm. The calm storyteller selects the light, arranges the chairs, and hands everyone apart. People do not notice the arrangement. They feel relief that the scene finally has order. Optics precede truth because the human heart seeks peace before accuracy. A steady tone, a clean frame, a phrase repeated without apology, these soothe the crowd and guide the vote. You were taught that being right would be enough. It is not. The world does not grant victory to the most moral or the most skilled. It bows to the most disciplined narrator. If you do not seize the opening line, you will spend the rest of the act playing defense inside someone else's plot. You will explain and explain and explain while the audience leans toward the person who never raises his voice. Machiavelli's lesson is not romance, it is realism. People are busy, tired, and distracted. They judge by appearances because looking deeper costs energy most will not pay. A confident entrance reads as competence, a tight message reads as truth, a stable demeanor reads as safety. The myth says the facts will speak for themselves. They never do. Facts are bricks, appearances are architecture. Without a builder, bricks become rubble, so you learn to build. Begin with the frame, the invisible wall that keeps confusion out and loyalty in. A frame is not a slogan. It is a boundary of meaning. It says what the situation is and what it is not. It decides which questions matter and which will be ignored. When you declare, here is the issue, here is what we will measure, here is the next step, you pour the foundation. When you keep the message short and repeat it without apology, you raise the balls. When you keep your body still, your voice low, and your pauses deliberate, you fix the roof. Now critics must knock to get inside. Now data serves the house you built. Your enemies will try to drag you into the open field of accusations, trivia, and emotion. Do not chase them. Restate the scene at a higher level and force them to argue inside your definitions. Reward allies who use your language. Withhold attention from stories that dilute your position. If numbers help, use them, but only after the frame is secure. Numbers are arrows, the frame is the bow. This is not cruelty, it is my responsibility. Leadership is deciding the meaning of the moment, so action becomes possible. You can be fair after you are clear. You can be generous after the ground stops moving. Control the narrative, and you control the temperature of the room, the pace of the meeting, the direction of the week. Lose it, and you will live inside other people's weather. Set the frame, then speak. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. You think you are choosing. You think your reply is measured, your tone calm, your decisions rational. Yet beneath your voice, something older speaks. It is the wound that wants to be soothed. It reaches for the same hand, the same script, the same promise. Be liked, be understood, be validated. That hunger is not neutral, it is a handle. Anyone who sees it can pull. The first handle is your reflex to explain. You overclarify because you fear being misread, and in that fear, you walk straight into their frame. You answer a question designed to corner you, as if it were neutral ground. You justify your schedule, your boundaries, your price, your silence. You narrate your motives like a defendant, begging a jury to be kind. Every extra sentence spends power to buy reassurance, and reassurance is never on sale. Compulsive explanation is not communication. It is a surrender of authorship. The other person now edits the scene while you scramble to keep up. You become predictable. If they frown, you explain. If they accuse, you explain. If they go quiet, you explain harder. Surgical truth feels colder but cuts cleaner. Practice sentences that stand without scaffolding. I'm not available. That rate doesn't work. We're finished with this topic. No footnotes, no tour of your history. If they press for reasons, let them sit with their discomfort. Disappointment is not an emergency. Watch how the room changes when you stop renting your frame to the loudest voice. Your boundary should stand the way a door stands. Visible, simple, not dramatic. You are not obligated to narrate the architecture every time someone knocks. The second handle is approval. You rename it to make it noble, reasonable, flexible, a team player. But underneath lives the fear of being disliked or called difficult. That fear converts price into permission. You think you are negotiating value, but you are bargaining for a feeling. Notice how your spine softens when someone sighs and says, "I'm disappointed." Notice how quickly deadlines blur, how fast you trim your fee, how easily you forgive a pattern after one warm text. The need to be seen as good becomes a remote control. Anyone who discovers the right button can pause you, play you, or rewind you to apology. Strategic empathy begins with labeling your trigger. If disapproval spikes your pulse, name it. If silence feels like rejection, name that too. The moment you can say, "My approval hunger is speaking," you create a gap wide enough for choice. Plan inside that gap. Before you enter any negotiation, write your minimums. Decide the number you will not go below, the hours you will not exceed, the behaviors you will not tolerate. Carry those lines into the room like a spine. When pressure arrives, as it will breathe, reread your minimums, and if they are crossed, leave without ceremony. Respect for yourself is not a performance. It is a boundary enforced at cost. The third handle is attention. You were taught attention is harmless, a casual scroll, a quick reply, an anxious glance at the comment that stings. But attention is tribute. Wherever you place it, you pay a tax that funds the story you are inside. Outrage farms it, flirtation harvests it, algorithms auction it to the highest bidder. Hostile frames do not need your agreement. They need your gaze. Every time you enter a fight, you did not choose. You bankroll the antagonist. Consider how a rumor swells, not by proof, but by the crowd gathering to stare. Consider how a toxic thread thrives, not on facts, but on your replies feeding the fire. Your attention is the fuel. Their narrative is the flame. Treat your attention as capital. Build a budget. Allocate the first and largest share to creation, skill, and relationships that enlarge you. Reserve a thin slice for scanning threats and obligations, and starve the rest. Mute sources that bait you. Delay responses that profit from your rush. Replace performative battles with written policies you can paste once and leave. Time box your communication windows and put your phone out of reach during deep work. When your focus returns from exile, invest it in habits that compound, training your body, studying hard things, nourishing quiet friendships, shipping work that lasts longer than the comment cycle. Attention placed with intention becomes sovereignty. Attention spent in reflex becomes tribute to someone else's throne. Underneath all three handles are wounds: old, faithful, persuasive. The child praised for long explanations becomes the adult who explains to stay safe. The peacemaker who kept harmony by being agreeable becomes the partner who discounts his worth to keep the bond. The invisible girl who chased attention to feel real becomes the woman who pays every hour to stand in a hostile light. None of this makes you weak. It makes you human. But what goes unexamined hardens into a script, and what hardens into a script performs itself without asking your permission. Jung called it fate when the unconscious drives. You call it how things always go. So you practice where the stakes are small. When someone misreads you, resist the spasm to over-explain. Offer a clean line, "That's not accurate," or "Here's the decision," and let silence carry the weight. When the fear of disapproval rises, feel it like weather, not law. Let the body heat and pass. Keep your minimums in view, the way a pilot keeps instruments in the cloud. When a conversation drags you into an unchosen courtroom, decline jurisdiction, not discussing that, different topic, or we can end here. These sentences are not aggression, they are hygiene. They keep your psyche from being colonized by frames that do not serve you. Power does not arrive as thunder. It accumulates as quiet refusals. Refuse to explain what does not require defense. Refuse to trade price for permission. Refuse to finance narratives that diminish you. The world may call this cold. Let it. Temperatures are set by thermostats, not by guests. Your task is not to be agreeable, it is to be aligned. Alignment looks like fewer words, slower breath, clearer schedules, honest minimums, and a calendar that privileges creation over correction. It looks like leaving some messages unanswered and some rooms forever. You cannot amputate the hunger to be liked, understood, validated, but you can parent it, seat it in the back while the adult drives. Give it what it needed all along. Attention on your terms, approval from your standards, explanations reserved for those who have earned your trust. As you do, the people who once pulled your handles will feel their grip loosen. Some will protest, some will leave. A few will step forward and meet you at eye level. Good, the room is clearing for the life you are actually here to live. The shadow is revealed not by light alone, but by the discipline of how you respond when it tries to speak for you. Your wounds will always vote. You decide whether they govern. Silence secures my frame. In all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. Carl Jung. You don't notice the first crack. It's a distant tap in a quiet room, a small click inside your chest. You keep working, you keep nodding, you keep answering emails. Then the floor shifts. The tiles of your identity slip out of alignment. The story you thought you lived in, a story where you were steady, respected, useful, has been edited without your consent. The new draft casts you in a darker light. From hero to villain overnight. You used to be the rock of the office, the person who took the late calls, pushed the project past the deadline, and steadied others when everything shook. People came to you because your presence was a calm harbor. Then a rumor, light as dust and just as invasive, rides the air. Someone whispers that you held data back. Someone claims you pitched an idea without giving credit. The rumor doesn't need proof. It needs eyes and breath. It gathers both. A hallway glance becomes a verdict. A delayed Slack reply becomes a conspiracy. You try to fight it with effort. You send long emails, bullet points, screenshots. You volunteer for extra tasks to show good faith. But every new effort is interpreted through the new frame, and frames bend light. Your reliability becomes control. Your decisiveness becomes arrogance. Your caution becomes withholding. The narrative rearranges your history. Late nights look suspicious. Careful edits look manipulative. Last quarter's praise is recast as favoritism. You watch the room you built tilt away from you. You feel your body shrinking, shoulders narrow, breath short, sentences small. You observe yourself from above, an actor missing cues on a stage where the lights are too bright. Rage spikes, then drops. Part of you wants to slam a door, confront the accuser, rip the rumor out by its roots, and hold it under fluorescent light. Another part wants to apologize to everyone for everything, to bow and offer context until the room goes quiet. This is the fracture. When the crowd's story becomes your mirror, you either lash out or collapse. Apology as surrender. You think that if you apologize early and often, you will regain control. But frantic apologies are a ritual that blesses the opponent's altar. When you apologize before a claim is proven, you accept the frame in which you are already wrong. You teach the crowd how to read you. They watch you bend and conclude the story must be true because your spine agrees. This is not about defiance for its own sake. It is about timing and sovereignty. A calm, precise apology for a concrete miss is strength. A blanket apology for a fog is surrender. So you practice restraint. You let the first impulse evaporate. You count 3 breaths before you respond. You ask for specifics, calmly, in writing. What exactly is the claim? Which date? Which deliverable? Who was present? You move the conversation from mood to evidence, from fog to ground. You do not write essays. You write one paragraph that names facts and requests verification. If an apology is owed, you deliver it once clean, proportional, and paired with a fix. I missed the handoff on Tuesday. That's on me. Here is the fix and the new check. But the hardest fight is not in the room. It is inside you. The silent trial begins when you go home. The judge is the voice that sounds like you. The jury is a chorus of past embarrassments. The prosecutor is the image of the person you imagine hates you. In that inner courtroom, you present exhibits that hurt you. You replay meetings. You scan faces. You assign motives. You argue both sides until 2 a.m., always losing to yourself. This private litigation feels like action, but it is a treadmill. Effort with no distance. Close the courtroom. It was never legitimate. Your unconscious is not a jury to be convinced. It is a landscape to be navigated. When you keep arguing, you fuse your identity to the accusation. The more you defend, the more your nervous system learns the shape of the accusation as self. Jung warned that what remains unconscious directs your life, and you call it fate. If you do not name the pattern, it will keep prosecuting you from the dark. Name it. I want to control how I am seen because I have confused visibility with worth. Now you do 3 things. First, you withdraw to the center, not from fear but from design. You anchor your day in tasks you can measure, deliverables submitted, message sent, document updated. You track actions, not reactions. Second, you build a counterframe silently through consistent signals, steady response times, clean documentation, clear boundaries. No dramatics, no gossip, no heroic speeches. Third, you cultivate witness, consciousness. When the blame wave hits, you feel it pass through without internalizing the label. The office will keep testing you. Some will search for your flinch, but you are learning to separate your identity from their storyline. You hold posture. You keep promises. You resist the theater of defense and choose the economy of truth. As the days collect, the rumor thins. It may never publicly die, rumors are undead, but your reality no longer depends on its funeral. You place your weight on what you can govern, your aims, your language, your tempo. Respect returns in a different form, not applause, but quiet trust. What remains is the deeper rebuild. The mask that shattered was not you. It was a costume rented from other people's expectations. You stand in the mirror and meet the face beneath the face. You see the pattern now. How praise inflated you, how suspicion deflated you, how both felt like somebody else holding the strings. This is individuation in miniature. You retrieve your name from the crowd. You learn to hold your value the way you hold your breath underwater, quietly, steadily, with intention. The collapse was not the end. It was the demolition you needed. In the rubble you find beams worth keeping, your capacity to endure pressure, your habit of showing up, your instinct for clarity. You lay them in a new order. Reputation becomes weather. Character becomes climate. The rumor becomes a brief season. Your work becomes the ground. You are no longer the office's hero or villain. You are a person with a frame that does not swing on other people's hinges. In the steady quiet after the storm, you return to your work. Hold your frame, hold your peace. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Machiavelli wrote it to cut through sentiment, not to turn you ruthless, but to make you clear. You have been treating smoke as fire, affection as anchor, praise as proof. It was never love, it was leverage. When your utility shifted, their devotion shifted. Once you see the mechanism, you stop bargaining. Start where it hurts. You kept doing more, believing more would buy safety. You stayed late to shield a team that would drop you the moment budgets tightened. You forgave a partner who adored you when adoration kept them centered, then cooled the instant you grew inconvenient. You explained yourself to friends who loved your availability, not your boundaries. The promises they sold, family, loyalty, forever, were theater staged by incentives. The word did not match the structure. Utility explains behavior. Say it cleanly. When rewards align with you, people move toward you. When they don't, they drift or turn. Loyalty without aligned incentives is theater. Work proves it. We're a family. Dissolves when the math disagrees. Romance mirrors it. Once your reassurance stopped stabilizing their insecurity, the warmth cooled. Social circles too. When your generosity stopped buying status, invitations slowed. You are not cursed, you were priced. So you audit incentives. Who wins when you say yes? Who pays when you say no? If a person's gain depends on your confusion, they will invest in keeping you confused. Stop calling it love when the mechanism is leverage. Call it what it is, a trade. Trades are fine, lies are not. You are not swearing off warmth. You are refusing to confuse warmth with wages. Next, separate your reputation from yourself. Your reputation is an asset, not your soul. It is a public story that buys access, credit, and tolerance. Useful, yes. Sacred, no. When you fused your worth to your reputation, every rumor felt like a knife, and every silent room became a trial. You panicked because you believed the crowd was holding your life. They never were. The crowd holds the narrative, you hold the levers. Think like a statesman with a balance sheet. What does your name purchase, and at what cost? If it buys entry, protect it. If it buys only noise, let it degrade. Imagine two roads. On the first, you chase reputation like a loose paper in the wind, sprinting, explaining, apologizing to strangers who were never going to vote your way. On the second, you stabilize your presence. Fewer words, stronger boundaries, consistent output, clean exits. The first road keeps you reactive. The second makes you legible. People negotiate with what is legible. When they know what you will not do, your value sharpens. Your reputation becomes an instrument you play, not a mirror you beg. You stop defending feelings and start defending terms. Panic fades because position replaces performance, not pleading. Now the pivot, from pleading to positioning. Pleading says, please see me correctly. Positioning says, Here is who I am, where I stand, and what it costs to engage. Pleading tries to edit their feelings. Positioning edits your exposure. You send calendars, not essays. You replace convince them with select them. You stop auditioning for roles you didn't write and start writing the roles you'll accept. At work, that means documenting value, not begging for it. Clear deliverables, measurable outcomes, boundaries on availability, pre-agreed criteria for success. Make replacement costly by becoming specific, not submissive. In romance, it means ending the subsidy of constant reassurance. You offer presence, not proof. The person who requires proof as oxygen will suffocate you to breathe. In friendships, you rate reciprocity, who initiates, who follows up, who shows without reminders. Keep a quiet ledger, act on the pattern, not the promise. Positioning also means building optionality. Machiavelli would call it maintaining the means. Cash reserves, skill mobility, network depth, and location flexibility. These are leverage against the weather. People sense when you can walk away. Paradoxically, that is when many decide to walk toward you. Scarcity clarifies. If you are everywhere, you are the background. If you are selective, you become an appointment. You will be tempted to lecture those who used you. Don't. Lectures are for the stage. You are done performing. Make two moves instead. First, withdraw your free labor. The explanations, the chronic availability, the emotional janitoring. Second, reallocate those hours to assets you control. Craft, health, learning, capital, and a circle that respects cost. Soon, those who called you difficult will call you disciplined. The words changed because the incentives changed. This is the quiet power in seeing leverage where you once saw love. You stop trying to fix hearts and start tuning mechanisms. You stop grieving the play and start studying the stage. You become uninsultable because you are unmoved by theater. If affection remains when leverage is gone, you have found something worthy. If it evaporates, you have found your teacher. You are not colder now. You are clearer. You can offer warmth without selling your spine. You can love as a verb without mislabeling transactions as destiny. Stand where the terms are honest, the incentives aligned, and the exits real. Then decide, not plead. Choose, don't chase. And when utility shifts again, as it always will, you will shift with it, without fear, without apology. No pleading, only positioning. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. You don't need cruelty, you need clarity. Power begins when you decide what the room is about and make every detail orbit that choice. People follow the voice that sounds like a map. Today you stop asking for directions and start drawing them. First strike, define the scene. Don't enter a meeting like a passenger, enter like a narrator. Before the first interruption, plant a line that frames mission and stakes. Say, here's what matters and why. Then give it in one breath. The problem, the cost of delay, and the first move. Example, churn rose 3 points. Every week costs 6 figures. We ship the pared down retention flow Friday. No apology, no throat clearing. Your tone is direct, not loud, measured, inevitable. If someone tries to detour, you bring them back with a simple compass line. Not now, first we decide the release. You set the center of gravity. Conversation now orbits purpose. 3 frames of control, anchor that gravity. First, the competence frame. You set the criteria. Make the scoreboard before anyone shoots. Say, we'll judge this by retention lift and time to ship, not feature count. When you name the metric, you name reality. Dissenters must either challenge the metric or adapt. Send agendas with 2 numbers. Open the room by writing them, close by recording deltas. Second, the scarcity frame. Your time and access are limited. Offer clean windows. I have 20 minutes. We'll decide and assign. Protect them. When the timer rings, you end. Scarcity sharpens minds. Third, the stability frame. You are calm while others escalate. When voices rise, your voice lowers. When faced with the tense, your breathing slows. You hold the pace as if you own extra minutes. The discipline of showing up when others do becomes the metronome. The room sinks to you. The language of command prevents drift into debates you can't win. Use short active sentences. Name the stakes. Specify next steps with owner and time. We miss Friday, we lose momentum. Sarah drafts rollback by 3 p.m. I will review at 4. Keep verbs near the front. Decide, cut, ship, escalate. Strip hedges no, maybe, kind of, or I feel like. Replace we will and we won't. If someone pulls you into definitions, climb out. Not the point. The decision is A or B by noon. Write actions while you speak. Visible ink is social gravity. In dating, the same rule holds. Thursday, 7 p.m., Italian place on 3rd. If not, next week. In family life, I'll join after I finish the proposal at 8. Direction beats discussion. Clocks beat opinions. Optics are policy in cloth and breath. Authority shows first as a picture, then as a sentence. Sit with a still spine, feet planted, hands quiet. Let your gaze rest, not dart. Keep your voice low and paced, as if you own extra time. Use intentional pauses that say, "You will wait for my verb." Attire. Clean lines, one palette. Repeat it until your presence becomes a signal. Phone face down and away. When you stand, stand fully. When you nod, nod once. On video, square shoulders to camera, chin level, light at eye height, background plain. Stillness reads as surplus power. The more they push, the less you sway. From you, the message is simple. You are hard to move. Hard to move people often move the room. Boundary engineering defends the frame without drama. No is often right, but the word invites duels. Use positioning statements that keep the mission in front. That doesn't serve our objective. Wrong stage for that. I'm not available for that request. Here's the route for approval. Replace excuses with architecture. Our standard is 2 options and a cost. Send that and we'll move. In relationships, I won't discuss this by text. Call at 7 if it's important. In social settings, I'm stepping out at 10. You are not rejecting people, you are prioritizing the mission. Boundaries stated in calm language feel like fixtures, not moods. You're not arguing, you're enforcing design. Counter-narrative defense is martial. Attacks arrive as traps or stories where you are the villain. Do not rebut point by point, that feeds the hostile frame. Rise in altitude and restate the mission, constraints and roles. We're not grading my personality. We're delivering by Friday under security limits. 2 viable paths remain, then redirect with a decision. Pick one. If the attack persists, reduce oxygen. This isn't moving the metric. Final choices are A or B. If a smear appears in public, publish a higher-level summary with facts, participants, and next steps. Then refuse further comment outside the decision forum. You deny spectacle, offer structure, and move. Your goal is not to win every argument. Your goal is to keep the narrative on rails. Mission, constraint, next step, then stop. Starve the fire, move the caravan, put the pieces into a pressure playbook. Before the room, script your first line, the metric, and the ask. Write them on a card you can touch. Walk in, define the scene, and deploy the frames in order. Competence, criteria, scarcity, time, stability, tone. Speak in commands that attach owners and clocks. Keep optics steady, stillness, low voice, deliberate pauses. Guard boundaries with mission-anchored lines. When hit, elevate and redirect. After the room, send a 3-line recap, metric baseline and target, decisions with owners and deadlines. Repetition turns tactics into culture. Modern life rewards whoever controls. Narrative gravity. You don't need volume, you need definition. In the attention economy, confusion is a tax and clarity is a currency. People relax when you set the rules and the clock. Resistance softens when you put choices into 2 clean paths, not because you crushed them, but because you removed fog. Influence is less a fist than a light that shows the road and the cliff. Practice on small fields. One-on-one. We have 10 minutes. We're deciding which task dies. At dinner, when a friend spirals, we're measuring by how rested you'll feel next week. I have 15 minutes. We'll make one plan. In text. Meet 5:30. Bring the deck. Decision on slide 9. On video. Shoulders square. Breath slow. Speak last. At midnight, when your phone buzzes, I respond during work hours. Send the summary. Each repetition teaches your nervous system that calm is not weakness, it is control. Meet the shadow that tries to hijack this. Fear of being disliked, the urge to explain, the habit of chasing approval. Name it when it rises. Breathe once. Return to frame, metric, and move. You do not need to dominate. You need to define. People crave the person who knows what the next 10 minutes are for. Be that person. Claim the frame. The room will do the rest. Calm is the weapon. Clarity is the command. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. You hear that line and think it belongs to tyrants. It doesn't. It belongs to people who want peace that lasts. You don't get calm by wishing for harmony. You get it by setting the frame and holding it. Hope is not a soft song. Hope is quiet after you have secured the doors. Benevolence after order. That is the sequence. First, you take control of the scene. Your time, your words, your boundaries. Then, you offer kindness without cost to your authority. When you reverse the order, people test you. When you hold the order, generosity lands as strength, not weakness. Think about the workplace. You show up, define the scope, make clear what you won't do, and only then do you say yes to extras. The team relaxes because the edges are firm. Or think about love. You state your stand, what you are building, what you will not tolerate, and affection grows inside that clarity. Sober truth. A ruler who shouts has already lost the room. The power that lasts travels in measured tone, consistent follow-through, and clean consequences. Order is not cruelty, it is clarity. When you master clarity, mercy becomes affordable. You can forgive without inviting chaos back in. You can listen without being pulled. So how do you keep this in motion when the day throws you bait and noise? Quiet power rituals. Daily, simple, repeatable. Write your scene. In the morning, 2 sentences. What is today's mission? What must not happen? Keep it on your phone, a sticky note, or the first line of your calendar. If you do not write the scene, someone else will. Choose your first sentence. Every meeting, every call, every text. Lead with one line that sets the frame. I have 15 minutes and a single decision to make. I'm focused on solutions, not blame. I'm not discussing this over chat. One sentence becomes a wall that holds back floods. Decide what you will ignore. Not everything deserves a reply. Silence is a tool. Ignore bait, gossip, and anything that drags you off the mission. Your energy is the treasury. Guard it like a coin. Let minor fires burn out in the air. End your day with an audit. Did you hold the frame? Where did you leak? Note it without shame. Fix one thing tomorrow. And sleep. Discipline is how hope learns to breathe. These rituals are not dramatic. They are bricks. Peace is a wall built one plain brick at a time. You don't perform your power. you protect it. You will notice a strange thing after a few weeks. People speak to you differently. They raise their bar before they bring you the task. They tell their own storms to be quiet. This is the dividend of narrative discipline. Now, the image to carry with you, the calm crown. Picture a ruler in a hall of red velvet and stone. He does not pound the armrest. He does not argue with whispers. He speaks once, and the chamber arranges itself around the sentence. He sets the story, and the story does the work. Guards move, scribes note, doors open and close. He can afford to be generous because he is not negotiating his throne every hour. His kindness is not a plea, it is a policy. His mercy does not wobble, it rests on granite. You are that ruler when you choose peace over chaos by sequence, by ritual, by restraint. Establish order, then give. Write the scene, open with the line, ignore the bait. Place the crown on silence, not on noise. Hope returns, not as a dream, but as the climate you built. Peace follows order, and order begins with me.